The chamber fell silent as the holographic display rotated above the assembly floor. Earth turned slowly in the projected light, blue and green and wrapped in white clouds. To Ambassador Chen Wei it looked beautiful. To the assembled delegates of the Galactic Council, it looked like a nightmare. Class 12 Deathworld, High Curator Veselik announced, his crystalline body refracting the light into rainbow patterns across the walls. His voice carried the harmonics of his species, making each word sound like wind chimes in a storm. The highest classification of planetary hostility. No sapient species should have evolved on such a world, yet the humans claim they did so naturally. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Chen kept her face neutral, her hands folded calmly on the desk before her. Beside her, Dr. Sarah Martinez shifted uncomfortably, but Chen touched her arm gently. "Wait," the gesture said. "Let them talk." Veselik continued his presentation with obvious pleasure. "Observe the gravity. 1.0 standard. This crushing force would snap the bones of 70% of Council species within hours. The atmospheric pressure at sea level is sufficient to cause cellular damage to most civilized races." He gestured, and the display zoomed to show Earth's surface. "The oxygen content is toxic. 21%. We classify anything above 15% as corrosive atmosphere." More laughter. A delegate from the Kresh Dominion called out. Perhaps they evolved from rocks instead of proper biological matter. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Rocks. If only they knew. The display shifted to show various Earth creatures. A great white shark breaching the water. A grizzly bear standing on its hind legs. A saltwater crocodile with jaws agape. A swarm of army ants devouring a fallen tree. "The predator density is unprecedented," Veselik said. "On civilized worlds, one apex predator species dominates. On Earth, there are hundreds. Thousands if we count smaller scales. Everything on this world seems designed to kill everything else. The dominant species these humans claim to be omnivores. They eat both plants and animals. This alone should tell you about the desperation of survival on their world." Scout Captain Thrin stood behind Veselik, his forearms crossed over his armored chest. Unlike his superior, Thrin did not laugh. He had fought in 3 wars, survived combat on hostile stations, seen friends die in the vacuum. Something about the human ambassador's calm bothered him. She should be defensive, angry, humiliated. Instead, she sat there like a stone in a river, letting the current flow around her. "The weather patterns," Veselik continued, warming to his subject, "are catastrophic. Hurricanes with winds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour, tornadoes that tear apart everything in their path, blizzards that drop temperatures below freezing, while burying the landscape in frozen water, droughts that last years, floods that reshape continents, lightning storms with electrical discharges powerful enough to vaporize organic matter." The display showed footage of each phenomenon. Chen had provided the data herself, knowing exactly how it would be used. She watched delegates recoil from images of tsunami waves, watched them gasp at footage of a forest fire consuming thousands of acres. "And yet," Veselik said, his voice dripping with theatrical wonder, "these primitives not only survived but claim to have thrived. They built cities, civilization, art. They tell us they did this through ingenuity and adaptation." He paused for effect. "I submit that they survived through blind luck and barely understood instinct. They are not our equals. They are refugees from a hell world who stumbled into space travel without ever developing true sophistication." The chamber erupted in applause. Chen waited for it to die down. She stood slowly, her movements precise and controlled. At 5'6", she was smaller than most species present. But she had learned long ago that presence had nothing to do with size. "High Curator Veselik," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "I thank you for your thorough presentation of Earth's environmental challenges. Your research is quite accurate." Veselik's crystalline features somehow managed to convey smugness. "Then you admit your world is hostile to civilized life?" "I admit that Earth has shaped us," Chen replied, "as every homeworld shapes its children. You come from Zelvar Prime, do you not? A low-gravity world with stable weather, minimal predation, and gentle seasons. A paradise by your standards." "Indeed," Veselik agreed, "as any proper world should be." Chen nodded slowly. "Then perhaps you would accept an invitation. Come to Earth. Visit our hell world. We will take you to what we consider safe recreational areas, tourist destinations, places where human children play and families vacation." She paused, letting the offer hang in the air. If these gentle places prove too much for you, then perhaps we can discuss whether our survival was luck or something more. The chamber went quiet. Vesilik's body dimmed slightly, the equivalent of a frown. You would have us visit a Class 12 Deathworld for recreation? We do it every summer, Dr. Martinez interjected, speaking for the first time. Millions of us. Children, elderly, everyone. If Earth is so hostile, surely experienced warriors and scientists from advanced civilizations can handle a simple camping trip. Thryn stepped forward, his tactical mind already seeing the trap, but his pride refusing to let him acknowledge it. The Zelvari Consortium does not back down from challenges, Ambassador. We accept. Vesilik looked at his military captain with something between approval and concern, but the words were already spoken. To refuse now would be to admit weakness. Yes, he said, his voice regaining its confidence. We will prove that your survival is mere fortune, not skill. We will bring a full expedition team. Scientists, military escorts, documentation specialists. The galaxy will see the truth of Earth. Chen bowed slightly, her expression serene. We look forward to hosting you. Please bring whatever equipment you believe necessary. We want you to be comfortable. Her eyes met Thryn's across the chamber. I recommend bringing medical supplies. Even our safe zones can surprise the unprepared. We have survived hostile environments across 3 sectors, Thryn replied stiffly. We will be fine. Of course, Chen agreed. She gathered her papers and nodded to Dr. Martinez. As they left the chamber, Sarah leaned close. Are you sure about this? She whispered. Olympic National Park in spring? That's practically a petting zoo compared to real wilderness. Chen smiled, a real smile this time. Exactly. If they can't handle the petting zoo, they'll never see the real zoo. And Sarah? Yes? Make sure the liability waivers are ironclad. I have a feeling we're going to need them. Behind them, the council erupted into excited chatter. Thryn watched the humans leave, feeling the first stirring of doubt. The ambassador had been too calm, too willing to accept their mockery, too eager to bring them to her world. He had learned in war that the enemy who retreated without fighting was the enemy who knew something you did not. As he began planning the expedition's logistics, requisitioning equipment and personnel, he could not shake the feeling that they were about to learn a very hard lesson. Vesilik appeared beside him, practically glowing with anticipation. This will be magnificent, Captain. We will document every moment of human weakness. The Council will thank us for exposing their inadequacy. Thryn said nothing. He simply nodded and continued his preparations, making sure to pack double the medical supplies his protocols required, just in case. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, with Thryn gripping his seat restraints harder than he would ever admit. The buffeting felt wrong. Too much movement, too much turbulence. On civilized worlds, atmospheric entry was smooth and controlled. This felt like controlled falling. Just some light chop, the human pilot called back cheerfully. Wait until you see a real storm. Thryn decided he would rather not. The expedition team consisted of 20 Zelvari personnel. 5 scientists, 10 military escorts, 3 documentation specialists, and 2 medical officers. High Curator Vesilik had spared no expense, bringing the finest equipment their civilization could provide. Climate-controlled suits, portable atmospheric processors, enough supplies to sustain them for 30 standard cycles without resupply. Ambassador Chen had met them at the landing site with 3 human guides. Just 3. Thryn found this either insulting or ominous. Welcome to Olympic National Park, Chen announced as they disembarked, one of Earth's most beautiful and accessible wilderness areas. Millions of humans visit each year, families, children, retirees. The forest loomed around them, thick and green and impossibly tall. Trees stretched toward the sky, some reaching heights that seemed structurally impossible. The air felt heavy, thick with moisture and oxygen. Thryn's suit sensors immediately flagged the oxygen content as hazardous. The air is toxic, one of the scientists, researcher Kellen, announced nervously. Only if you breathe pure oxygen for too long, Dr. Martinez replied. She wore simple clothing, no environmental suit, nothing but fabric and boots. Your suits will filter it to comfortable levels. But yes, our air is richer than most worlds find pleasant. Vesilik studied the forest with poorly concealed disdain. These trees are inefficient. Why grow so tall when horizontal spread would capture more light? Competition, Martinez explained. Every tree fights for sunlight. The tallest survive. The weak die. That's how Earth works. Everything competes. Everything struggles. Barbaric, Veselik muttered. Chen smiled and gestured down a trail. Shall we? We have a 6-kilometer hike to our first camp. Nice easy walk. The trail was not easy. Within the first kilometer, 3 Zelvari were struggling. Their low-gravity evolution had not prepared them for Earth's pull. Each step required more effort than they were used to. Their suits helped, powered exoskeletons compensating for the crushing weight, but nothing could eliminate the constant pressure. Rest stop, Thrin ordered, refusing to show weakness himself but recognizing the limits of his team. The humans barely looked winded. They had not stopped talking since they started walking, pointing out plants and animals with the casual enthusiasm of tour guides. That's a Douglas fir, one of the guides. A young man named Marcus said cheerfully. They can live over 1,000 years. That one is probably around 300 years. Thrin processed this. A single organism rooted in place, surviving for longer than his entire military career, withstanding whatever Earth threw at it for 3 centuries. What are these protocols you mentioned? Researcher Kellen asked, studying the small canister each human carried. Bear canisters, Marcus replied, for storing food. Bears have an incredible sense of smell. They can detect food from kilometers away. If we don't store it properly, they'll come into camp looking for it. Bears? Veselik's translator conveyed confusion. The large predators from your presentation? Yep, black bears are common here. Usually shy, but if they're hungry or protecting cubs, they can be dangerous. Marcus said this as casually as discussing the weather. And you bring children here? Kellen's voice climbed an octave. Sure. You just teach them the rules. Make noise so you don't surprise a bear. Back away slowly if you see one. Don't run. Running triggers their chase instinct. Martinez demonstrated, backing away slowly. See? Simple. Nothing about this seemed simple to Thrin. They continued hiking. The forest pressed in around them, full of sounds. Birds calling, things rustling in undergrowth, water flowing somewhere nearby. Every sound made the Zelvari jumpy. There's something flying near me, one of the soldiers reported, his weapon halfway up before Thrin stopped him. Just a bee, Chen said calmly. They pollinate flowers. Completely harmless unless you're allergic or threaten their hive. The bee landed on researcher Kellen's suit. She screamed. The bee, apparently annoyed by the noise or the vibration, stung the small exposed section of her neck where her suit seal met her skin. Kellen went into anaphylactic shock within seconds. The humans moved with startling speed. Martinez was beside the fallen scientist before Thrin could even react, some kind of injector device already in her hand. She pressed it against Kellen's neck and the Zelvari's breathing stabilized. EpiPen, Martinez explained, holding up the device. Epinephrine. For allergic reactions. We carry them automatically in wilderness areas. She looked at Thrin. You might want to test your people for bee venom sensitivity. We have over 20,000 bee species on Earth. 20,000. Thrin added another item to his growing list of Earth's absurdities. They reached camp as the sun began setting. The temperature, which the humans had described as pleasantly warm, started dropping immediately. Within an hour, Thrin's suit registered a 15-degree decrease. By full dark, several Zelvari were experiencing hypothermia despite their climate-controlled suits. This is normal? Veselik demanded, his crystalline body actually chattering, a sound Thrin had never heard before. It's spring in the mountains, Chen replied, adding wood to a fire with practiced ease. Warm days, cold nights, temperature swings of 20 or 30 degrees are typical. She noticed the Zelvari huddling together. Do you need extra blankets? We brought spares. The humiliation of accepting burned, but Thrin was practical. Yes, thank you. That night it rained. Not the gentle precipitation of civilized worlds, but a steady, heavy downpour that overwhelmed the Zelvari's tent systems. The rainwater, normal by Earth standards, had a pH level that irritated their sensitive skin. By morning, half the expedition had rashes. It's just water, Veselik said, examining his discolored arm plates with horror. It's acidic water, Martinez corrected, from atmospheric carbon dioxide dissolving in the moisture. Normal rain. You'll adjust, she paused. Probably. Thrin watched as the humans broke camp efficiently, working together with a coordination that spoke of deep practice. They showed no signs of discomfort from the cold night or the rain. They had slept in simple fabric shelters while the Zelvari had used advanced environmental pods. How far to the next camp? He asked Chen. About 8 kilometers, but I'm thinking we should stay near this area. She looked at the bedraggled expedition team with something that might have been sympathy. There's a black bear with cubs nearby. I saw tracks this morning. Best to give her space. A predator is near. Vasilik's voice went sharp. Why didn't you warn us immediately? Because she's not hunting us. We're not prey. We're just too big and too much trouble. Chen pointed to the massive paw prints in the mud near their camp. She passed by about 3 hours ago. Didn't even stop to investigate. We're not food. We're just neighbors. Thryn stared at the tracks. Each pad was larger than his hand. The bear had walked within 20 meters of their camp and none of them had noticed. None of their sensors had alerted them. A predator large enough to kill any of them had simply wandered past while they slept. I wish to go deeper, Vasilik announced suddenly. This area is clearly too tame. Too managed. Show us real wilderness. Prove that your world is truly as harsh as classified. Chen exchanged glances with Martinez and Marcus. Thryn saw the warning pass between them without words. Are you sure? Chen asked carefully. The managed areas exist for a reason. Beyond them, we don't control anything. No rescue services. No quick extraction. Just Earth as she actually is. We are sure, Vasilik insisted. His pride, Thryn realized, would not let him back down even as their first day had nearly killed one of their scientists. Show us your worst. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. All right, but we go by my rules. You follow every instruction immediately. No debates. No arguments. In real wilderness, hesitation kills. Agreed, Vasilik said. Thryn wanted to object, wanted to counsel caution, but the words died in his throat. They had come to prove human weakness. Instead, they were barely surviving human hospitality. Going deeper was foolish, but pride, as always, demanded payment. We leave in 1 hour, Chen announced. Pack everything. Where we're going, we won't find any convenience. As the humans prepared, Thryn checked his medical supplies again and quietly ordered his soldiers to combat readiness. They were not going deeper into a park anymore, they were going to war with a planet. The terrain changed as they moved beyond the managed trails. The forest grew thicker, darker, more tangled. Fallen trees blocked paths, forcing detours. Streams appeared without warning, cutting across their route. The ground itself seemed hostile, alternating between slick mud and hidden rocks that turned ankles and tested balance. Vasilik had stopped talking after the first 3 hours. His earlier mockery had evaporated into grim determination. His climate suit labored to keep him functioning under Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Around him, the other Zelvari struggled silently, too proud to complain but clearly suffering. The humans moved like ghosts through the forest. They seemed to flow around obstacles, reading the terrain without thinking about it. Marcus led, choosing paths with an instinct that Thryn was beginning to recognize as deeply trained pattern recognition. These were not lucky primitives. These were apex predators in their native environment. Contact. One of the Zelvari scouts reported over the communication channel. 2 team members requesting medical evacuation. Encountered unknown toxic plant and hostile fauna. Thryn closed his eyes briefly. They had sent scouts ahead to prove Zelvari capabilities. Now those scouts were down. Details? Scout Renix made contact with a plant species. Severe dermal reaction. Scout Pavlos encountered a serpentine creature with venomous bite. Both are stable but require immediate treatment. Chen had already changed direction, moving toward the scout's last position with Martinez and Marcus close behind. Thryn followed, leaving Vasilik with the main group and 4 soldiers. They found Renix first. The scout was curled on the ground, his exposed arms covered in angry welts that wept clear fluid. Martinez knelt beside him, examined the nearby plants, and sighed. Poison oak. The plant oils cause an allergic reaction in most mammals. Intensely itchy, painful. Lasts for weeks if untreated. She pulled out a medical kit and began applying a cream. This will help, but he needs proper antihistamines. Real treatment. A plant did this? Thryn stared at the innocuous-looking shrub. Just by touching it? It's a defense mechanism. Animals learn to avoid it. Humans too, though some of us are more resistant than others. Martinez worked efficiently. The oil can remain potent for years. Even dead plants are dangerous. Pavlos was worse. The snake, which Marcus identified, as a rattlesnake, had bitten him on the leg before he could react. The venom was spreading despite his suit's medical systems. "Your people don't have snake analogs?" Chen asked as she administered anti-venom from her pack. "No," Thrin admitted. "Reptilian species exist on some worlds, but venomous ones are rare. We have no natural resistance." "Neither do humans," Chen replied. "That's why we developed anti-venoms, learned to recognize dangerous snakes, taught our children which ones to avoid." She secured the injection site. "He'll live, but he needs evacuation. The venom could cause permanent damage if not properly treated." 2 scouts down within 6 hours of leaving managed territory. Thrin made the call and watched as the evacuation shuttle descended through the canopy, disturbing birds and small creatures. The amount of life in this forest was staggering. Everything seemed to be eating something else. The main group had made camp by a river when they returned. Thrin approached the water carefully, his tactical training screaming warnings. Water meant life. Life meant predators. "We need to cross," Chen announced. "Our route continues on the other side." The river was perhaps 20 meters wide, flowing fast and cold from mountain snowmelt. To the humans, this seemed routine. To Thrin, it looked like a death trap. "Is this safe?" Veselik asked, his voice containing the first hint of genuine fear Thrin had heard. "Define safe," Marcus replied cheerfully. He was already stripping off his boots and tying them to his pack. "Water's cold. Current's moderate. No visible hazards. We'll rope across, standard river crossing procedure." The humans went first, wading into the water without hesitation. It came up to their waists at the deepest point. They secured a rope line and beckoned the Zelvari forward. The first soldier to attempt the crossing made it 3 meters before the current swept his feet from under him. Only the rope saved him from being carried downstream. The humans hauled him back, muscling through the water with strength that seemed impossible for their size. "Your people don't have large water bodies?" Martinez asked as they secured a second rope. "Zelvar Prime is mostly land," Thrin explained. "Small lakes, shallow seas, nothing like this." He watched the river with new respect. "This is a minor waterway?" "Pretty small, yeah. Wait until you see the Columbia River, or the Amazon, or the ocean." Chen tested the rope. "But this one will get us where we need to go. Come on, one at a time. We'll guide you." It took 2 hours to get everyone across. 3 more Zelvari needed assistance. One panicked halfway and had to be physically carried by Marcus, who waded back into the current as if it were nothing. By the time they reached the far bank, everyone was exhausted. "We camp here tonight," Chen decided, looking at the bedraggled expedition. "Early start tomorrow." That night they heard the cougar. Its scream cut through the darkness, a sound that bypassed rational thought and spoke directly to prey instincts buried deep in every species' evolution. The Zelvari froze. Several weapons were drawn before Thrin could stop them. Chen stood from her position by the fire, utterly calm. "Mountain lion, cougar, puma, lots of names. She's just passing through, announcing her territory." She pointed into the darkness. "About 200 meters that way. She knows we're here. She's not interested." "Not interested?" Veselik's voice trembled. That sound was clearly aggressive. "That sound is communication," Martinez corrected. "She's telling other cougars this area is hers. We're too big to be prey, too many to be worth the risk. She'll avoid us." The cougar screamed again. Closer. Thrin's combat training identified it as one of the most efficient killing sounds he had ever heard. His weapon was in his hand before he thought about it. Chen noticed. "Don't shoot. She's not attacking. Shooting would startle her, might trigger a defensive response. Right now she's just curious. Loud noises will send her away." She picked up a pot and banged it with a spoon. The metallic clanging echoed through the forest. Silence. Then, the sound of something large moving away through the underbrush. "See?" Marcus said. "Easy. Easy." Thrin returned his weapon to its holster with shaking hands. On his homeworld, his ancestors had eliminated large predators millennia ago. They had never needed to share their world with creatures that could kill them. Humans did. Humans always had. They had learned to coexist with death, to negotiate with predators, to survive alongside creatures that saw them as food. "How many predator species does Earth have?" he asked quietly, sitting beside Chen at the fire. She thought about it. That could hunt humans? Dozens of large ones. Hundreds if you count smaller scales. Bears, big cats, wolves, crocodiles, sharks. Depends on where you are. And you just live with this? We don't have a choice. It's our home. We learn to be smarter, faster, more adaptable. We learn to work together. Individual humans are weak compared to many predators. But humans in groups? She smiled. We're the most dangerous thing on Earth. Thryn believed her. He had watched these 3 humans outperform his entire trained team. They carried no powered suits, no advanced weapons, no sophisticated survival gear. Just knowledge, experience, instincts honed by millions of years of desperate survival. Morning brought new disaster. One of the documentation specialists, Irevan, was missing. They found him an hour later, treed by what Marcus identified as a moose. A moose? Veselik stared at the massive creature standing placidly beneath the tree where Irevan clung to a branch. That looks like a herbivore. It eats plants. Yeah, Marcus agreed. It also weighs around 600 kilograms and is incredibly territorial. They kill more people in this region than bears do. Irevan must have gotten too close. The moose seemed content to wait. Irevan was clearly injured, one arm hanging at a wrong angle. He had fallen before climbing the tree. "We need to distract it," Chen said, already moving. She and Martinez circled wide while Marcus stayed with the group. Then they appeared on the far side of the moose, shouting and waving their arms. The moose looked at them, calculated threat levels, and decided to investigate these noisy creatures instead of the one in the tree. It trotted toward the humans, who immediately split up and ran in different directions, drawing the animal away. "Go," Marcus ordered. "Get him down. Quick." Thryn and 2 soldiers rushed forward, catching Irevan as he dropped from the branch. His arm was clearly broken, and he was suffering from exposure and shock. They carried him back to camp while the humans rejoined them, having successfully led the moose a kilometer away. "Just a moose," Martinez said, barely breathing hard. "More aggressive during mating season, but mostly they just want space." Mostly. Thryn was beginning to hate that word. Veselik's condition was deteriorating. The constant pressure, the atmospheric composition, the physical stress of the terrain, all of it was taking its toll on his crystalline structure. Small cracks appeared along his body's surface. He tried to hide it, but Thryn noticed. "We should return," Thryn said quietly. "We have proven nothing except that Earth is indeed hostile." "No," Veselik insisted. "We continue. I will not give these primitives the satisfaction of defeating us." The first indication of the storm was the birds going silent. Chen noticed immediately, her head tilting as she listened to the sudden absence of sound. Marcus checked his portable weather device and his expression went tight. "How fast is it moving?" Chen asked. "Faster than predicted. Maybe 3 hours." Marcus looked at the terrain around them, calculating distances and options. "We can't make it back to the evac zone in time." "Then we go up," Chen decided, pointing to higher ground visible through the trees. "Get above the flood line. Find shelter." "Flood?" Thryn's translator struggled with the word. "The rain will flood?" "Flash flooding in mountain terrain," Martinez explained, already packing with urgent efficiency. "Rain falls on high ground, funnels down through valleys. Water rises fast, very fast. We need to be above it or it will sweep us away." The Zelvari moved too slowly. They were exhausted from days of struggling against Earth's gravity and atmosphere. Their suits were malfunctioning from moisture and unexpected impacts. Veselik could barely walk, his cracked carapace making every movement painful. "Leave equipment," Chen ordered. "Take only essentials. Medical supplies. Water purification. Emergency rations. Nothing else. Move now." The wind arrived first, bending trees and sending loose branches crashing down around them. One struck a Zelvari soldier, denting his helmet and knocking him sprawling. Thryn hauled him up, adrenaline overriding exhaustion. The sky darkened impossibly fast. One moment it was afternoon. The next it was twilight beneath churning black clouds. Thunder rolled across the mountains, a sound that Thryn felt in his bones. On Zelvar Prime, storms were gentle. This was violence given meteorological form. The first lightning strike hit a tree 200 meters away. The crack was deafening. The flash blinded. When Thryn's vision cleared, the tree was simply gone, exploded into splinters by the electrical discharge. "Move!" Chen shouted over the rising wind. "Don't stop. Don't look back. Just move." The rain began. Not rain like Thryn understood it. This was water falling with physical force, each drop a tiny impact. Within seconds, visibility dropped to meters. The ground turned to mud. The Zelvari slipped and fell and struggled to stand. Another lightning strike, closer this time. One of the Zelvari scientists screamed as electricity arced across his crystalline body. He was not hit directly, but proximity was enough. His suit's systems exploded in sparks. He collapsed, his body conducting the electrical charge that had passed nearby. "Crystalline biology," Martinez shouted to Thryn as they dragged the fallen scientist forward. "Conductive. Lightning is attracted to them. Get them away from open areas." 2 more scientists went down from proximity strikes. Their bodies literally drew electricity from the air. Chen and Marcus were suddenly everywhere, dragging Zelvari behind rocks, under overhangs, anywhere that might shield them from the electrical hellstorm. The rain intensified. Visibility was now measured in meters. Thryn could barely see Chen just ahead of him. Water poured down the mountainside in sheets. He heard it before he saw it, a roar like some massive beast. The flash flood hit with geological force. Water that had been falling on peaks kilometers away now funneled through their valley, rising from ankle-deep to waist-deep in seconds. The current grabbed at them, pulling, dragging, trying to sweep them away. "Grab onto something," Marcus shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar. "Trees, rocks." Each other. Thryn saw a Zelvari soldier simply disappear, swept away before anyone could react. He lunged for the nearest tree, his suit's enhanced strength letting him hold against the current. Around him, Zelvari were scattering, panicking, losing cohesion. The humans moved through the chaos like they were born to it. Chen had a rope somehow, lashing Zelvari to trees and rocks. Martinez was hauling a scientist to higher ground, her small frame somehow generating enough force to move the larger alien against the current. Marcus was in the water up to his chest, catching people as they were swept past, using the current's force against itself to swing them to safety. Thryn watched in something like awe as these 3 humans coordinated without speaking, reading each other's intentions through tiny movements and gestures. This was not trained behavior. This was instinct, evolution. This was what survived when Earth tested you and found you worthy. There, Chen pointed to an outcropping of rock jutting from the hillside. Natural shelter, move. They fought their way up, climbing against the storm. The temperature was dropping rapidly. Rain was mixing with hail now, ice pellets that struck with stunning force. Thryn's suit was holding barely, but the Zelvari without functional suits were suffering. Hypothermia was setting in despite the ambient temperature being what humans would call chilly. The shelter was an overhang, barely large enough for everyone. Water poured off the edges like a curtain. Inside, pressed together, shivering and shocked. The Zelvari expedition tried to process what had just happened. "Casualty report," Thryn ordered, his command voice steady despite his internal terror. 3 scientists unconscious from electrical exposure. 1 soldier missing, presumed swept away by flooding. Multiple cases of hypothermia. Veselic's condition critical. The medical officer's voice shook. "We have lost nearly half our supplies. Life support systems are failing across multiple suits." Chen was already stripping off her jacket. "Body heat," she said simply. She moved to the nearest hypothermic Zelvari and wrapped around them, sharing her warmth. Martinez and Marcus did the same without hesitation. "Your body temperature is higher than ours," Thryn realized. "You generate more heat." "Endothermic regulation," Martinez replied, her teeth chattering slightly but her voice steady. "We maintain constant body temperature internally. Expensive metabolically, but useful in situations like this. Your people are ectothermic by comparison. Harder to generate heat, easier to lose it." The storm raged for hours. Lightning continued to strike around them. The water level rose to within meters of their shelter before finally stabilizing. Wind screamed through the forest, breaking trees with sounds like rifle shots. The temperature continued to drop. Thryn watched the humans work. They rationed their supplies with mathematical precision. They rotated positions to share warmth evenly. They kept talking, keeping morale up, explaining what was happening in calm voices that somehow cut through the panic. "This is a typical storm?" Thrin asked Chen during a brief lull. "This is bad," she admitted, "but not unprecedented. We get storms like this every year. Bigger ones too. Hurricanes, blizzards, tornadoes. Earth's weather is driven by massive energy exchanges between ocean and atmosphere. Lots of energy means violent weather. How do you survive this?" Chen looked at him, rain dripping from her hair, her body shivering slightly despite her attempts to hide it. "We prepare. We respect the danger. We work together. Individual humans are vulnerable, but humans as a group, we're hard to kill." Veselik was unconscious now, his cracked carapace spreading failure through his body. The medical officer was doing what he could. But Zelvari medicine was not designed for the compound traumas Earth had inflicted. "We need extraction," Thrin said to Chen. "Emergency extraction. Now." "Can't fly in this," Marcus replied from his position near the shelter entrance. "Wind would tear any shuttle apart. Lightning would fry the electronics. We have to wait it out." He might not have time to wait. Chen pulled out a communication device, water-resistant and simple. She tried several channels before getting a response. "This is Chen. I need emergency medical evac at these coordinates. Critical patient. Multiple casualties. Negative," the response crackled. "Storm system too severe. Soonest possible extraction is 12 hours. Maybe longer. You need to stabilize them there." Chen looked at Thrin and he saw something in her expression that terrified him more than the storm. She was worried. These humans who had walked through danger without fear were actually concerned. "All right," she said. "We stabilize here. Martinez, break out the emergency medical kit. Everything we have. We're going to need it." The night was endless. The storm continued its assault. The humans took turns monitoring the Zelvari, adjusting their shared warmth distribution, treating injuries with supplies that were running dangerously low. Thrin helped as best he could, following their instructions, learning on the fly the dozens of small skills required to keep people alive in hostile conditions. "Why are you doing this?" he asked Chen during the darkest hour, when the storm seemed like it would never end. "We came here to mock you, to prove you were weak. Now you risk yourselves to save us." Chen looked at him with something like surprise. "Because you're here. Because you need help. Because leaving people to die when you can save them is—" She struggled for words. "It's unthinkable. Humans didn't survive Earth by abandoning each other. We survived by cooperation, by helping the weak, by sharing the burden." She adjusted the blanket around a sleeping Zelvari. "You're not our enemies. You're just people who didn't understand. Now you're learning." Thrin was quiet for a long moment. "We mocked you." "Yes. We called you primitive." "Yes. We were wrong." Chen smiled, exhausted but genuine. "Yes." The storm broke near dawn. The clouds parted slowly, revealing a sky that was impossibly clear and bright. The destruction was stunning. Trees down everywhere, entire hillsides scoured by water. The medical station orbiting Zelvar Prime was the finest facility in the consortium. Its doctors had treated injuries from 3 wars and countless exploratory missions. Yet the staff looked at the Zelvari expedition survivors with a mixture of confusion and concern. The injuries were simultaneously severe and bizarre. Veselik remained in critical care for 2 weeks. His crystalline structure had suffered cascading failures from atmospheric pressure, physical stress, and electrical exposure. The doctors had never seen anything like it. One admitted privately that they were learning more about emergency crystalline trauma repair than decades of research had taught them. 6 other Zelvari required extended treatment. 2 scientists had permanent nerve damage from electrical exposure. 1 soldier was still recovering from near drowning. The psychological evaluations were worse. Half the expedition showed signs of trauma, unable to sleep without reliving the storm, the forest, the constant sense of threat. Thrin recovered physically within days. His military conditioning and better equipment had protected him from the worst, but he found himself unable to stop thinking about Earth, about the humans, about what he had witnessed. The Galactic Council convened 3 months after the expedition's return. The chamber was packed. Word had spread about the disaster. About the Zelvari who had gone to prove human weakness and returned broken. Thryn stood at the central podium, his military decorations gleaming under the chamber lights. Behind him, footage from the expedition played on massive screens. Council members watched in silence as they saw the forest, the river crossing, the cougar encounter, the storm. Honored Council, Thryn began, his voice carrying to every corner. I come before you not as a warrior, but as a witness. 3 months ago, I joined an expedition to Earth with the purpose of documenting human inadequacy. I believed, as many of you believe, that humanity's survival on their homeworld was fortune rather than achievement. He paused. I was wrong. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Thryn continued. Earth is indeed a Class 12 death world. Every classification in our database is accurate. The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere is corrosive. The predator density is unprecedented. The weather systems are catastrophically violent. He gestured to the screens. What our classifications failed to capture is what it means to evolve in such an environment. What it does to a species. What it makes them become. The footage showed Chen and Martinez hauling Zelvari to safety during the flash flood. Humans are not lucky. They are adapted. Their endurance is not accident but design. Their cooperation is not convenience but survival necessity. They maintain body temperature internally at high metabolic cost because their environment demands it. They process toxins that would kill us because their world is full of such toxins. They share resources and help the weak because on Earth only groups survive. Individuals die, more footage. Mark is catching a swept-away Zelvari. The humans sharing their warmth. Their medical supplies. Their knowledge. We lost 6 expedition members through evacuation. 3 more were permanently injured. 1 nearly died. And at every step the humans saved us. Not because they owed us anything. Not because we had been kind to them. Thryn's voice grew stronger. But because that is what humans do. They help, they endure. They survive by making sure others survive. A voice called from the assembly. Scout Captain, are you saying we should fear humanity? Thryn considered the question carefully. Fear, no. Respect? Absolutely. Humanity has spent millions of years surviving conditions that would exterminate most council species within days. They have learned lessons we never needed to learn, developed capabilities we never needed to develop. They are not primitive. They are specialized, and their specialization is survival. High Curator Veselik entered the chamber, moving slowly, his crystalline body still showing repair lines. The assembly went silent. All eyes turned to him. He approached the podium with visible effort. Thryn stepped aside, giving him space. Veselik looked at the assembled council, at the species who had laughed when he presented Earth as a joke world inhabited by lucky primitives. I stand before you, Veselik said quietly, as someone who has been humbled by truth. I mocked humanity. I called them weak. I said their survival was chance rather than skill. He paused, his damaged voice harmonics making his words sound fractured. I nearly died proving myself wrong. The chamber remained silent. Earth did not try to kill us. Let me be clear about this. We visited what humans consider safe recreational areas, tourist destinations, places where their children play. And those gentle places nearly destroyed us, not through malice, not through deliberate action, simply by being what they are. Veselik gestured to his cracked body. This damage was caused by normal atmospheric pressure and typical weather. I was broken by an ordinary storm in a friendly forest. More silence. Species throughout the chamber were processing this information. The Zelvari Consortium formally withdraws all opposition to human recognition, Veselik announced. Furthermore, we propose immediate elevation to full council status with specialist designation. Humanity has survived the unsurvivable. They have wisdom we lack, capabilities we need. They deserve not just recognition but respect. The vote was called. In the past, human recognition had been blocked by 17 council members. Now the count was unanimous. Every species present voted in favor. Ambassador Chen Wei stood to speak, her small form somehow commanding attention from the entire assembly. Thank you, she said simply. Humanity accepts this recognition with gratitude. We look forward to cooperation and mutual learning. She paused. But I want to be clear about something. Earth is our home, we love it. We would not trade it for any paradise world in the galaxy. It made us what we are. Every struggle, every hardship, every generation that survived against impossible odds, all of that is precious to us. She looked at Veselik, Then at Thrin. You came to our world expecting to find weakness. Instead, you found strength you didn't recognize. That's not your fault. How could you recognize it? Your worlds never required it. But now you know. And now we can move forward together. The chamber erupted in applause, not mocking laughter this time, but genuine appreciation. Over the following months, humanity's role in galactic civilization transformed. Search and rescue organizations throughout Council space requested human advisors. Hostile world colonization projects sought human consultation. Military training programs wanted to understand human endurance techniques. Chen found herself coordinating dozens of exchange programs. Aliens came to Earth, carefully supervised, experiencing controlled doses of humanity's homeworld. Some lasted days, some barely managed hours, all left with new understanding, and humans ventured outward, bringing their hard-won survival skills to worlds others had written off as impossible. Mining operations on high-gravity worlds, research stations in corrosive atmospheres, rescue missions in extreme environments. Wherever conditions were too harsh for normal species, humans thrived. Thrin took a position as liaison between Zelvari military and human training cadres. He spent 6 months on Earth, learning human survival techniques, understanding their philosophy of endurance. He wrote extensively about his experiences, publishing treatises on adaptive evolution and environmental pressure. One evening, he stood with Chen on a mountain overlook, watching the sun set over wilderness that had nearly killed him. "I still have nightmares about the storm," he admitted. "Most people do." "Their first time in a really bad one," Chen replied. "That fear is healthy. It keeps you careful, but you're not afraid." "Oh, I'm absolutely afraid. Earth has killed better prepared people than me. But fear and respect aren't the same as terror and helplessness." She looked at the vast forest below. "I know what Earth can do. I know my limits. I plan accordingly. That's how you survive. Not by being fearless, but by being smart. Your species is remarkable," Thrin said quietly. Chen laughed. "We're just humans. Earth made us this way because anything less would have died. We're not special. We're just what happens when a world demands everything and you refuse to quit." "That," Thrin replied, "is precisely what makes you special." A year after the expedition, Veselik made his first return trip to Earth. He came with proper equipment this time, realistic expectations and genuine humility. Chen guided him personally through a botanical garden, pointing out plants and explaining their adaptations. "This one," she said, indicating a Venus flytrap, "is carnivorous. It eats insects." Veselik studied the plant with fascination. "Even your plants are predators, some of them. Others are incredibly fragile. Delicate flowers that survive through beauty and symbiosis rather than strength." She touched a rose gently. "Earth has room for both." That's another lesson we learned. Strength takes many forms. They walked in comfortable silence through the garden. Finally, Veselik spoke. "I came here to mock you, to prove you were weak. Instead, I learned that we were the weak ones. Weak in understanding, weak in perspective, weak in humility." "You weren't weak," Chen corrected. "You were inexperienced. There's a difference. Now you have experience. Now you understand. That's not weakness. That's growth." The Galactic Council established formal protocols for Deathworld adapted species. Humanity became the template,